Hey everyone, welcome to Licks of the Beast. I'm Nico, and today we're going to talk about alternate picking. Now this is truly a fundamental technique for guitar players, yet it tends to be overlooked by many, including some professional musicians. Even me, after 30 years of playing guitar and practicing my ass off, I still couldn't play fast alternate picked runs to save my life. I could do fast rhythm playing no problem, but fast single note runs? Not so much. And for the longest time, my excuse was, I'm just not that kind of player. And also, my hands just don't move that way. And I use the word excuse specifically because that's really all it was. An excuse for my lack of ability to focus long enough to work on my alternate picking technique with correct practice for even a small amount of time consistently each day. My turning point came around 3 years ago. So I was listening to an instrumental track by guitarist Neely Brosh, aptly entitled A Matter of Perception. And I'm really enjoying this piece, the riffs, the melodies, I'm getting all into the vibe of it and admiring Neely's overall technical ability. Neely is a phenomenal player, by the way, and if you're not familiar with her music, I highly recommend you give it a listen. Anyway, so I'm listening to this piece, I'm all into it, and at one point, she plays this. And that just made my ears perk up because it's such a great lick. So as it often happens with music that I really enjoy, I wanted to play along with it. So I grabbed my guitar and start jamming with it, just to get a feel for what Neely is playing. But then I get to that fast run and I realize I just can't play it. Now I know it's just an ascending B flat minor scale, I could hear that clearly, but it's all played with strict alternate picking, it's fast, and it's 3 notes per string, which is the worst for me. That's because with 3 notes per string, you keep alternating between starting on a downstroke and starting on an upstroke for each string. So if you haven't cultivated proper technique, good luck. But I figured, okay, I just have to work through it. I'll keep trying until I get it. So I loaded up the original track in my DAW, put the guitar on another track, set a marker at the start of that part, and I started practicing. So I would do a few runs, and then I'd record myself. And when I would play back just my own guitar track, it sounded like one sloppy mess. It was terrible. I was tripping over myself, the picking was all scratchy, and there was string noise everywhere. And that's when it hit me. The problem wasn't speed, it wasn't my hands, my muscles, nerves, tendons, or whatever else excuse I was ready to throw out. The issue came down to 2 simple things: bad technique and poor synchronization between my picking and fretting hands. That's it, nothing else. And that was actually exciting because if the problem was simple, then the solution had to be simple too. And in fact, it was. Now, of course, simple doesn't mean easy. And it doesn't mean results would come quickly. Especially because I was in my late 40s. And like it or not, acquiring new physical skills just takes longer as we age. Especially fine motor skills. But I couldn't accept the idea that after so many years of practicing and playing, I had neglected some of the most basic skills, like alternate picking. Vibrato was actually another one, but that's a story for another video. I was determined to improve this area of my playing, so I set out to find a course by someone who had mastered alternate picking. And I found a really good one by Chris Brooks. Now that guy's picking technique is incredible, and he actually specializes in Yngwie Malmsteen's playing style. So if you're going to work on your picking, Yngwie isn't exactly a bad example to follow. I also looked up some videos of players who are known for their picking skills, like Kiko Loureiro, Paul Gilbert, and Rick Graham, just to see if they had any tips I could follow, or if there was something in their movement that I could steal and try to implement into my own practice. Basically, it came down to a few key points, which I'm now going to share with you. And I hope they'll be as helpful to you as they were to me. But this isn't a fix your picking in 3 easy steps kind of thing, because the truth is, it just takes time, and there really isn't any secret formula that can replace consistent and diligent practice over time. But I hope that what I'm about to share with you will motivate you to pay a little more attention to this aspect of your technique, and that it'll be encouraging to those of you who, like me, thought that the ability to play fast, alternate picked runs was something out of reach. Because I can assure you that I am anything but naturally gifted when it comes to this. And if I could get decent results, you could be 1,000% sure that you can too. The first point is about proper basic picking technique. And yes, there are multiple ways to pick. Zach and Marty play one way, Paul plays another way, Kiko has a strange way of holding the pick so that it hits the strings flat. Those guys are freaks of nature, and they all stuck with whatever worked for them. But if you're watching this, there's a good chance that, like me, you're not one of those freaks of nature, and whatever you're doing is probably not giving you the best possible results. So for us mere mortals, good standard technique is usually what works best. So I suggest you stick with this. Your picking motion should come from the wrist and the wrist only. Not the forearm or the elbow, just the wrist. When you change strings, that's when your arm comes into play. So don't reach for the next string, just move your arm so that your hand is always in the most comfortable position to pick the string with minimal effort. Don't pick one way at slow speeds and then another way when you play faster. So when you practice at slow speeds, use the same motion as you would at a faster tempo. That is, keep the picking tight and precise and minimize travel. So don't do this just because you have more time between the beats. The next point is to focus on the picking hand and the fretting hand separately. This will help you pay extra attention to your technique in finer detail, ultimately making it easier and more natural to synchronize the two hands. Now, one easy way to do this is to work on your picking hand by just keeping your fretting hand over a harmonic point like the 7th fret, or even just muting the strings. And yes, it's okay to look at your hand when you're working on this. Then for the fretting hand, practice playing everything legato by picking just one note per string. And practice different patterns for your legato so that you develop better finger independence. So you can start with 4 notes per string. Then move to 3 notes. Then 2 notes per string. And then just 1 note per string. Here's something else I found helpful. So take a short pattern and repeat it multiple times quickly just for a short burst. So something like this. Or something like this. Or even something like this. That kind of thing is really good for ingraining the mechanics into your muscle memory. It's a good idea to use a metronome for this kind of practice so that by following the click, you can develop more precision in your hand synchronization. Every time you get comfortable with a given speed, increase the tempo. It's also good to practice without a metronome and just go for it. Pick a part of a lick or a short phrase, maybe 2 to 4 bars, and play it as fast as you can. Now, you're not going for precision here, you're just trying to hit every note in the phrase without everything completely falling apart. Now, this is a necessary step in learning to play fast because it forces you to push your limits. It also helps you feel like you can do it. And as you push through it, you realize that it's within reach. And then it's just a question of honing your skill, putting in the repetitions, and fine-tuning along the way. So that kind of practice plays an important role in developing and sharpening your technique so that you don't reinforce bad habits that can then limit your progress along the way. But another kind of practice that I think is equally important and a lot more fun, although sometimes it can be a little bit more frustrating, is to learn songs that require the skill that you're trying to develop. So you're doing this to play music after all, and there's no better way to push yourself than with a piece of music that you truly enjoy. So pick something that you can mostly play, except for maybe one or two parts where the picking gives you a hard time, and work on that. So figure out what the sticking point is and try to isolate just that part to work on it for a while. It's a fun challenge, and then the feeling you get when you can finally play along with the whole song is an incredible reward. The last point is consistency. Even just a short daily practice session focused on form and detail adds up really fast. The benefits really can't be overstated. And here's the best part. As your technique improves, you start to feel that progress. You realize that you're playing things that used to be out of reach, and that feeling becomes addictive. You'll want to see even better results, and before you know it, practicing isn't a chore, it's something you can't wait to do. That's really what it comes down to. Work on your picking hand, work on your fretting hand, put them together using different patterns and varying the number of notes per string. Practice carefully to build solid technique, but also push yourself to go beyond your current ability. Do this every day and you'll be amazed at how much better your picking gets. Now, of course, I still have a long way to go with my own alternate picking, and I make sure to practice every day. I don't have Paul Gilbert level chops, but I can play things now that 3 years ago I was convinced were completely out of reach. I even got that Neely Brosh lick down pretty good. That's really a great lick, and I'm so glad I learned it. Now, one last but very important thing I want to say is that ultimately, any technique you learn and develop should serve you and not the other way around. So be mindful as you go along to not become so obsessed with your technical skill that it takes over your musicality or your enjoyment of playing guitar and performing the songs that you love. The pursuit of excellence is noble. But just know that a little bit of dirt in your sound is actually a cool thing, as it makes your playing more expressive. Just about all of your favorite players have that quality. So practice with consistency, aim to get better, but remember to keep it fun. Thank you all so much for watching, and stay tuned for more licks of the beast. That was almost a really good take. Like, I literally almost had it. You drooled on my jeans, and now you're leaving. Thank you, Miles.